Scooterheads, welcome to another episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast, broadcast to you from the Scooter Dome in outrageous Las Vegas. Let's call it the fabulous Scooter Dome. But why outrageous Las Vegas? This place is nuts. Right now, it's really cold. Well, 30s and 40s Fahrenheit, which 32 degrees, I think, is equivalent to 0 in Celsius because that's the freezing point. But why is it outrageous? Well, within a few miles, you can attend incredible conferences, go see high-tech exhibitions and movie theaters, and bands come here and musicians, and the roads are nuts. People drive crazy here. One time I was going to make a left turn, and the person on a four-way intersection was going to make a right turn. And the rule is, in America, if there's a four-way stop, whoever stops first makes their turn or goes straight or does whatever they're going to do. But the guy wanted to go right in front of me. So instead of slamming on my brakes in the middle of the intersection when he cut me off, I kind of tailgated him a little bit. I came up a little bit close before I hit the brake. And this guy was so talented a driver that he was able, in his old beat-up pickup truck, to rooster tail his truck bed into the dirt and fling a bunch of rocks onto my truck, which I couldn't get angry because it was talented. It really took skill to be able to do that. People here drive with road rage, which if you listen to the previous episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast, it was all about road rage. So I wouldn't say that Las Vegas is the worst place in the world to drive. I could go on and on. I have driven in so many countries. But I will say that it is a little bit better than Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix is maybe the worst place for road rage that I've been in the United States. People drive really fast. Coming up on a red light, they'll just hit their brakes and stop within inches of the car ahead of them and squeal their tires as they take off. And if people don't immediately slam on the throttle as soon as the light turns green, people are honking. Phoenix is nuts. So I guess Las Vegas is a little bit better, slightly. No, it's not better. It's less worse. It's less horrible. Today's podcast is interesting because if you've been following along, you know I recently got back from Ecuador where I had a scoot experience, as I am oft to do. I like to travel and scoot, so I combine them when I can. But before I left, I started a podcast that I didn't finish, and it was on the Micromobility USA conference that was held October 14th on America's West Coast. I think it was somewhere in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area of California, somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. But when I was doing research, I was disappointed in the official videos that were put up on YouTube explaining what happened. I was just expecting more. And that is why this podcast will be in two different sections. Before I went to Ecuador, when I was disappointed, and after getting back from Ecuador now, it took them a while, I don't know why, to put out follow-up videos. Why didn't they just shoot them and put them out right after the conference? I don't know. But a month, 2 months after the conference, they're dribbling out these videos, which actually caused me to do a 180, not a 360. It's great when people say, oh, yeah, she used to drink all the time, but she's done a complete 360. No, 360, you will end up heading in the same direction. The term is 180 because 180 will have you headed in the opposite direction. So I don't know if I did a 180. Maybe I did a 110 or a 140 or something, because I was able to listen to what presidential candidate Andrew Yang actually had to say and what the founder, supposedly originator of the term micromobility, Didier, had these 10 commandments. They weren't commandments at all. I'm not saying everything was great and everything was perfect, but my initial take on the conference was not good. It was just based on the videos. Again, I didn't attend. If you listen to a previous podcast, Jesse Garnier from Pevra, I'm not sure if he attended, but I texted him. We'll see if he gets back to me to see what he thought about the conference. But even though I didn't attend, I was just basing my opinion on what I saw, and what I saw was disappointing. But now, since that time, I've done a 100-something degree turn, and there was some pretty inspirational stuff said at that conference. So I am going to, for the sake of keeping the podcast interesting, go ahead and let you hear the sort of cynical things I had to say, and for part one of this podcast. And then part two, I will put a little more positive spin on things. So, having said that, let's get on with the podcast. Scooter heads, heel bedankt. Where at the Electric Scooter Podcast, we recommend you do something related to scootering every day of the week that ends in a G. I'm sorry, that only works for the Netherlands. If it ends in a Y, do something scooter related. Clean one of your scooters, or go check to see if the brakes need to be adjusted, if your headlight is pointing straight ahead, is your helmet inside of a bag packed away, or you like me, you toss it up on a shelf and then it gets all dusty, then you have to wipe it off, and you put it in the helmet bag anyway. So why not just, when you get off the ride, put it in the helmet bag? I don't know. Maybe some kind of funk will grow in it if it's enclosed in your polyethylene helmet bag. I don't know. Like, what was his name? Jesse Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota, used to say, and not that I respect this quote, "Hey, I'm just a guy asking questions." So if you hear a snide tone in my voice or I sound cynical, it's just because that's fun for me. Because I'm going to talk about a conference that I did not even attend. Micromobility America 2021. We mentioned it in a previous podcast, so I've been scouring the internet and the tubes looking for some kind of summary. I've typed in wrap up, notes, summary. I don't know what happened there, but they just have glitzy little commercial type videos. I haven't seen anything that directly says, here's what happened and here's what we did. It did catch people's attention in the various news agencies that Andrew Yang was being shown how to ride an EUC at one point, an electric unicycle. But I read an interview with him on Wired, and it was at the conference, and there was very little said about the conference, and everything he said had to do with politics, running for president, duopoly, basic universal income, or universal basic income. I think it is UBI. my daughter heard about that and she thought, wow, what a great idea. I've never heard of that before. It's so forward thinking and out of the box. And I'm thinking, if you give me free money and I vote for you in return, that's novel? Really? Is that a new idea? A politician says, I'll give you money in exchange for your vote. Is that really a new idea? Even the universal basic income, Martin Luther King had some kind of economic policy that was similar to that to help lift people out of poverty. But I'm not against him. I'm not for him. His parents, I was going to say he's from Taiwan, but I believe his parents are from Taiwan, which is awesome. Love the people of Taiwan. Love Taiwan, culture, food, everything. Foreigners go over there, and one of the common things you'll hear is it's hard to make friends over there with locals, expats, expatriates, people who've immigrated or are spending months and months in Taiwan as digital nomads, say that integrating with the society can be a challenge. I heard one YouTuber say, I've been here a year, I don't have a single friend that's not a foreigner. But the key is to get into some hobby or some niche that is shared by the local people. That's probably true of anywhere. But I surfed, and I circled the island surfing. And, man, you paddle out with people and talk in between waves and hang out. And then you're sharing rides to get to the beach and stuff like that. That's your ticket in. Anyway, that's a sidebar. Let's get back to Micromobility America. One thing that we can go by is the 2019 Micromobility America conference, because there was an excellent article written by Trina in the Electric Scooter Guide blog. And one of the things she says in there is she defines it as the engineers define micromobility. And it's transportation using personal electric vehicles. Not electronic, personal electric vehicles. You might hear me say either one. Of course, steering damper I call a steering dampener, which linguistically makes more sense. Transportation using personal electric vehicles. So PEV is a subset of micromobility. Zero to Epic, when I interviewed him, he encouraged scooter heads and folks in the PEV community to use micromobiles. I mean, it is simpler to remember, right? Micromobility and micromobiles is just a conjugation. I mean, not a conjugation, but it's a form of the word micromobility. And in it, she included a link from when the founder of the Electric Scooter Guide, Chuck Temple, says he attended the actual conference of 2019, and he wrote a synopsis of it, and it's beautiful. He said, 1,000 people there. The first presentation was Horace Dediu, Dediu, and he is an employee of Lyft, I guess, but he did mention that Bird is the fastest company in history to reach $1 billion. And micromobility itself is the fastest technology in the history of mankind to reach 500 million users, 500 million users. So, in other words, it's a technology that came along quick and affected more people faster than anything in human history. I guess when electricity came out, it was probably little waves, right? Little spots of areas that got electricity, and they had to lift up the poles and connect the wires and all that kind of stuff. And it, it took decades, right? Some places still don't have electricity in the world. But micromobility was like, boom, 500 million users. And Chuck mentioned all the different people who stood up and talked and everything. But when I said I was going to get cynical a little bit, what I meant by that was the lack on the internet. What happened? Why isn't there any type of synopsis out there? Why aren't there, like, every time there's an auto show, there's 50 people on YouTube coming out with, here's this car, here's that car, all that kind of stuff. Well, I have an idea. And again, I didn't attend. So you may want to disregard even what I'm telling you. There was a 3-minute vanilla. What has less flavor than vanilla? A very neutral video produced from the Micromobility Conference, which there's a company behind it. What are they? Micromobility something. It's in their name. But it's a bunch of really rich people. And it's not just about scooters, but it's a bunch of really rich people that are thinkers and entrepreneurs, and not people like you and me that are hopping on scooters to get to work, unless it's for a photo op or something. It's big executives who are paying more than $400 a day for, I don't know what they get for that, a granola bar in a little bag with some French water and a bunch of business cards from companies or people who want to bring electric vehicles from China and stamp their name on it and just, hey, I'm the middleman, and accept the money. Also, a lot of people, there's the cynical me. Also, there are a lot of people who are innovative from different parts of the country and the world who have great designs and want to get their designs out there, I'm sure. At the 2019 conference, there were about 1,000 people. He just says, Chuck says, I would guess there were close to 1,000. So, like I said, I would love to attend, and I'd actually love to be there. But in this little 3-minute video, the people are talking, and everything is so broad and generic. Micromobility is good for society, and then they're cutting in with these short little vignettes of cool people riding scooters through wherever, Amsterdam and Lisbon and cool places wherever around the world. And they don't have a helmet on. They don't have gloves on. They're wearing some generic clothes, completely devoid of any kind of safety gear. And they don't look comfortable riding scooters. And they're standing like, oh my God, is this over yet? Going over a bridge in Venice or something. I'm just saying there were generic little vignettes of people who look like they don't belong on scooters and not wearing helmets or glasses or gloves or anything, cruising around only for like 5-second clips. And I guarantee you they probably wiped their brow when they stepped off the scooter and were happy to have survived that 5-second ride. So to give you an idea of just what I'm talking about, here is a clip put out by the company that hosted the conference, Micromobility Industries.
Isn't it exciting to be back to where it all began? 967 is the number of days since our last event in America, and we're incredibly fortunate that we can come back and be here.
Next, you'll hear Andrew Yang, former U.S. presidential candidate, and he won't say anything specific, obviously, but like, here's a chance for you to see the future and just, things a politician would say. What a scooterhead wants to hear is, yeah, I rock a gold-colored Wolf King when I'm going to appointments around town, but if it's just for fun, I'm on an electric unicycle. And if you ever elect me president, you know what I'm going to do? Rather than spend that money that I said I was going to give to every single American $1,000 a month or whatever it was. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm going to use that same money to build infrastructure for PEVs. I'm going to build arching roads through our major metropolises that go past every traffic light and traffic jam, so that when people are sitting in their cars and they look up to see the skyline, they see people on scooters, electric unicycles, e-bikes, cruising by them, and it plants a seed in the back of their mind that, you know what, maybe I should park this combustion engine pollutant spilling vehicle and have fun on the way to work and skip all the traffic lights. But no, he's not going to say that, people.
Events like this one are so much fun because people can come together, see where the innovation is happening, build partnerships and relationships, and most of all, just get a glimpse of the future.
Get a glimpse of the future. Okay, well, that doesn't sound like somebody who's jazzed about micromobility. It sounds like a Hallmark greeting card author wrote something that you could say at any single conference anywhere in the world. Bobby pins, cell phones, desks. All right, I'm not impressed with that. What I want to hear from this conference is, here's what we decided to do, and here's what we're going to lobby for, and this company is going to try to do this new thing. Not going to find it here, Scooterheads, I'm afraid. Next, we're going to hear from Carson Brown, the designer of Taur, Taur. I've mentioned it in a couple previous podcasts. Looks pretty cool and cool idea and innovative, but it's got the side-by-side stance, which I just cannot advocate. I'm sorry. Your balance when you're going forward is not working to your advantage if you hit the brakes, or even when you speed up. You hit the brakes, your body's going to tend to go forward. You hit the throttle, your body's going to tend to go back. How accurate of a steering and maneuverability are you going to get when your body's doing that? But that's just me. It might be your thing. Ben Fox, also from Jewel in the Sea, England, likes to ride that way. So to each his own. I wouldn't design a scooter with that in mind, because regular scooters, you can still stand side by side. I mean, if the decks are wide enough, some like the Apollo Explorer have super wide decks, you could do that and you can maneuver around. But having your feet stuck in one place, I don't know, man. But anyway, here he is, Carson Brown.
So just seeing a room of all of these people from various different companies that came out to connect and to collaborate, so it's something that you do feel very grateful for.
So this guy is an imaginative engineer. We know he is. He's famous, and he has money, and he's good at what he does. How many clips did they sort through when they said, okay, 3 minutes of this whole conference, and let's get some of the heavy hitters. Let's get Andrew Yang. Let's get Carson Brown. And how many clips did they sift through to arrive at that clip? Either one of those clips. Andrew Yang might have said some great stuff, though judging by the Wired interview, he did not. It was all stumping for office. But Carson Brown, he might have said some amazing things, and they chose just a generic slice, not guess what we're coming out with next year, or I really like this trend in electric scooting, or I don't like that one, or we've got a new breakthrough in batteries. Who knows? But this is what he said. We're grateful and having this opportunity, and him and Andrew Yang coming together and blah, blah, blah.
Just being able to get on these devices and test out the latest and greatest in technology, it's been really exciting to be a part of that today.
So finally, somebody says something with a little bit of substance. We know the executives, aside from hobnobbing and sharing martinis, they did get to try the different products. Yeah, Carson Brown did say there was collaboration, but I don't know how much that's really saying.
We need this type of conferences to bring together all the innovations in the field, all the way from the newest hardware that is popping up, to the new business model, to all the software that is behind.
There are so many modes of transportation that we need to pursue in a robust manner if we're going to reduce our dependence on solo driving. And so micromobility options, e-scooters, e-bikes, hoverboards, all of those things are part of the mix.
Wow, that was David Kim of the California Transportation Agency. I like what he had to say. I don't know that it paints any kind of a picture of what was accomplished at that conference. It doesn't. But I do like hearing somebody from a U.S. state who works in transportation saying those words. Let's hear it again.
There are so many modes of transportation that we need to pursue in a robust manner if we're going to reduce our dependence on solo driving. And so micromobility options, e-scooters, e-bikes, hoverboards, all of those things are part of the mix.
E-scooters, e-bikes, hoverboards, space shoes. Whatever the future holds, we don't know, right? But it is gratifying to hear somebody in Mr. Kim's position working with the state of California transportation. It is gratifying to hear him say that those modes of transportation are important because they are the future. And state of California apparently has some big surplus now. They were going broke, but now they got all kinds of money. I got an idea of where to put some of that money. How about infrastructure for personal electric vehicles?
Yeah, man. It's the Electric Scooter Podcast. IRA. ESP. ESP. ESP, y'all. ESP. ESP. ESP, y'all. ESP. ESP.
Wow, I said the cynical part of the podcast was just going to be the prologue, but 27 minutes have gone by already. So let me kind of rectify a little bit or adjust my cynicism, because since I got back from Ecuador, I was in Ecuador for a month. They, and by they, I mean the Micromobility USA folks, have put out a couple videos, maybe 3, and they were actually pretty good. They were inspirational. So let's end the podcast with something a little more specific and a little more hopeful that Andrew Yang had to say. And I would also like to let scooter heads know that my plan for the next podcast is to go over what one of the founders of Micromobility, is it Micromobility America, Micromobility USA, one or the other, Didiu is his name, Dediu. He had something that he called 10 Commandments of Micromobility. After listening to it, I don't agree that they are commandments. I mean, grammatically, linguistically, they're not commandments. So I'm going to call them 10 points regarding micromobility. And I'm probably going to adjust to be scooters because I like scooters. This podcast is founded because there wasn't a podcast about electric scooters at all, much less one about lifestyle, which if you listen to the Electric Scooter Podcast, you know that it is about lifestyle. I don't have a particular format. I come up with different ideas every week. I know it's comfortable to do the same thing over and over, and here's this section about this, and here's this section to be very formatted. It makes it easy, but I just throughout the week, I just come up with ideas, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're very good. So here is Andrew Yang to take us out, and until next time, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down.
As a community for e-scooters or e-bikes, it would look significantly different. Very difficult to do in a city that's already optimized for something else, and by the way, you have limited municipal funds, and so if you're going to choose to spend it on something, it's hard to repurpose. So that to me is the greatest obstacle. The greatest opportunity then on the flip side would be communities that can actually integrate and prioritize e-scooters and e-bikes and other micromobility devices from day one. And I think that would be a massive competitive advantage for some of those communities or developments in terms of attracting young people in particular. I think you can sense that I love these devices, that I do. I mean, and I would love nothing more than to see entire communities being able to take advantage of them. They're better for the environment, they're better for our mental health. But I will say on a native human level, most of all, they're just fun, they're a blast. Like I think they're just better for our mental health. I believe that about biking too. I think biking is great exercise and good for our mental health. And to me, a lot of the e-scooters are in the same camp.